from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Catholic. I am Mike Walsh. I am the Director of Communications for the Diocese of Camden and the Associate Publisher of the Catholic Star Herald. And as you may have noticed, if you're a regular listener, I'm not usually the guy that opens the podcast. However, I'm by myself today. A rare occasion. It took 146, 147 episodes to happen, but I have to fly solo once, but that's okay. Right? You guys are used to my voice and me prattling on, so I think it'll be all right. I do want to go through a few of the events that we have coming up. Starting on November 10th, we have a Mass of Hope and Thanksgiving and Remembrance for cancer patients, survivors, and families who have lost loved ones to cancer. That's going to be at Church of the Holy Family in Sewell, New Jersey. It's hosted by Vitality Catholic Healthcare Services. And if you want to learn more about this or any of our other events that I'm going to be talking about, I highly recommend you go to camdendiocese.org and go to our events pages where you'll find more about these events and many of the others that we don't talk about on the podcast, but you may find very interesting. Catholic Charities has a new education program that they're rolling out. It's called I Thirst. It's an addiction healing initiative. This is an opening workshop that's going to be held on Saturday, November 16th at the Church of the Holy Family in Sewell, New Jersey, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Join this introductory workshop and learn about the new diocesan-wide I Thirst initiative, which aims to empower the church to develop a pastoral approach to support those suffering from addiction and their families. You know, addiction services is one of those things that we hear a lot about in a lot of areas, but particularly in the Diocese of Camden. We found that there seems to be an even greater need throughout the diocese for people who are struggling with addictions, not just the people themselves, but the families. The scourge of addiction seems to be affecting people far more than it did back in the as recently as 10 years ago. And it's becoming more aware, people are becoming more aware of it in their families, which is probably a good thing because it's the kind of thing where we used to, hide it under the rug and not really talk about our family members who are in distress, which is a bad habit to be in. Quite frankly, it's probably created more problems that it saved us from what we felt was shame that we had members of our family who were struggling with addiction. What we found, and we've talked about this on the show many times, is that coming together and finding other people in the community who have had difficulty tends to be something that that ends up bringing a lot more support than people realize. And usually it's our own, I hesitate to say vanity, but it's our own emotions that come forward that block us from going to a group setting. Well, this is an opportunity to learn more about how you can be helped and how you can help others through the I Thirst Addiction Healing Initiative. So, I hope you'll look into it. Certainly, like I said before, go to the Camden Diocese website and our events page, or you can also go to catholiccharities.camden.org/event/I Thirst to learn more. The Heart to Heart Youth Holy Hour and Social for all high school youth groups and teenagers will be having its monthly gathering at 4 p.m. on November 17th at Coimbra Hall in Atlantic City. This is run by our dear friends, the CFR Sisters in Atlantic City. It's a great event with pizza and fellowship, followed by Eucharistic adoration, music, and meditations. I really encourage you, if you're a young person or you know a young person who's looking for a little bit more, let's say, spiritual direction in their lives, feel free to go to this. For one thing, you'll fall in love with the sisters if you've never been before, and if you do know the sisters, well, you know why you need to go. They're great. And finally, on December 13th, everyone is welcome to attend the Jubilate Deo Choral and Orchestra Reunion Concert. This event is being held at the Kimmel Center. And it's produced in cooperation with the choirs of Jubilate Deo Chorale and Orchestra, Eastern University, the Church of the Savior, and other diocesan parishes. This exciting holiday concert will take place on Friday, December 13th at 7:30 p.m. at Verizon Hall in the Kimmel Center. If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit the Kimmel Center website at www.kimmelcenter.org. And if you're wondering why I never do the intros to the podcast, you've just learned in the past 6 minutes and 38 seconds. I hate reading from script. I hate doing all that kind of stuff. I just like to sit back and chit-chat and banter. That is where my strength lies. So I want to introduce our guest for the day, and it's actually someone I've gotten to know a little bit over the last year. And in addition to being one heck of a great person and great person who works for Catholic Charities of Camden, she's been taking on a lot of, well, one in particular initiative that's close to our heart, particularly as someone who has been working with Man Up, which is taking place this weekend, depending on when you're listening to this, on November 9th. But men's mentorship for young men, something that I don't think we do enough of. Mentorship in general can be difficult for a lot of people to sort of focus on, but men-to-men mentorship can sometimes or to young men mentorship can even be more difficult from time to time. Just finding good connections. So the fact that a program like this exists, I personally think is wonderful. So I would like to introduce Cristina Chillem, the program director for two programs of Catholic Charities: the Walk With Me Mentorship Program, which is primarily operating in Camden and Gloucester counties, and the Health and Wellness Program that's operating in Salem County. Hey, Cristina.
Hello.
Thank you for having someone else to talk to. Oh, man. The idea of talking into a mic by myself is ridiculous. I don't know how Mark Maron does it. I don't know how any of those podcasters do it. But thank you for sitting there uncomfortably for 8 minutes and 4 seconds. That was very kind of you.
You did great.
Oh, you lie. But that's very nice of you to say that, though, however. So thank you for finally coming into the vault. It's nice to see you again. No, we're excited to have you. Actually, I got to spend a little bit of time with you at the Catholic Charities annual gathering in Albuquerque. That was nice.
That was.
Did you find it as rewarding as we had all hoped?
I had a great time.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Isn't it nice to be around people people from other walks of life who are sort of working in that same avenue as you? Did you find it refreshing?
I think that was one of the greatest parts. They do offer, the workshops where expert speakers come in and tell you about best practices, but then there's so much time to socialize with other Catholic Charities staff and diocesan staff, and every diocese and Catholic Charities all over the country is doing slightly different things, and we experience the same challenges, but in different ways. And so those conversations are just really interesting.
When our dear friend and beloved mentor, Kevin Hickey, Mr. Hickey from Catholic Charities, suggested to me about coming to the annual gathering this year. I'd been to the one, I think, 2 years ago in Boston, and I was really blown away by it. I really found it. I've talked on the podcast a lot that I get ripped by a few people that I never go on retreats or anything like that. Not because I don't want to, just because I never have the time to. So it was an opportunity for me. That was like my version of a spiritual retreat. It was an opportunity for me to go out and be around people who are really doing great work and be inspired by them and suck up some of that energy if I could. Even
on the first day, I just looked around myself for a moment, and I felt like I love being part of this network of people.
Yeah. It really is.
The atmosphere is great. And even one of the featured speakers, before she started, she kind of brought up what would have been improv, I suppose. And she said, you guys, I don't know if you know how lucky you are that you have this friendly atmosphere where you're talking and laughing and friendly with each other, even talking in proximity close to each other. She said a lot of businesses, companies, networks, that it's much colder and whatnot. So I was really happy to be there.
That was interesting to hear, because she, and unfortunately I cannot remember her name, but she came from Mora, yeah.
Or Mona.
She comes from a business background, and she's on the tech side of secular life, and where I used to work a lot. I used to work in that industry a bit, and it was true. You'd go to these personal interactions were sort of suppressed, not intentionally suppressed, but you didn't have that kind of commiseration, I might say, that you have at the Catholic Charities annual gathering, where you really get an opportunity. Let's face it, the work Catholic, I was about to say we, it's not we. I don't work for Catholic Charities. You work for Catholic Charities.
We're part of the same network.
Well, we are, and I get to spend a lot of time at Catholic Charities, and I see just how difficult the work they do is. I mean, in addition to, professionally difficult, personally difficult, there's a lot of people you're working with great difficulties and going through great difficulties, and that has an emotional toll. And the fact that there's an opportunity for all these people to come together who are feeling this emotional toll and be rejuvenated together and commiserate together,
yes,
that means a lot.
Yes, it does.
And you've worked for Catholic Charities for how long?
3 years.
3 years, wow.
November will be 3 years.
You're a veteran.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah.
I like it. And have you had a couple different roles with Catholic Charities?
Oh, yes.
What'd you start out as?
Well, I actually started out in November of 2016 volunteering full-time with the development department. It's the Office of Community Support and Planning. And the primary role there is for grant writing and development.
The always excited grant writing job. That's always an opening start for people on nonprofits, and it's not exciting. I accept that.
I asked.
Did you really? That was something you wanted to dive into that?
Yeah, I was looking for grant writing experience.
Oh, wow.
When I found the grant writing genre, it was like uncovering this gem. And I was like, I love this, and this is what I want to do. I actually was coming from just finishing my master's in English from Rutgers University, and feeling like I didn't really want to continue pursuing academia and in particularly medieval literature and poetry, which is what the track I had been on. So I was trying to figure out how to apply my research and writing skills and passions and in some real world business way. And I found grant writing.
Wow.
And so that grant proposal is I love it. I would love the grant proposals and the whole process. So I couldn't get a job because I didn't have any of that demonstrated experience. So I had found out that several times Catholic Charities had a grant writing intern. And it was through the Diocesan Frassati Young Adult Group. Camille, I had met Camille through there, Camille Quentes. And she said, well, we used to have like a grant writing intern, so maybe they would let you volunteer and get experience. So I inquired. I ended up volunteering full time from November 2016 to April of 2017. And it was even more than full time because those deadlines will have you working, right? And I was really serious about it. It was an invaluable and cherished experience for sure.
You know, that's wonderful to hear, because as someone who has had to write grants in the past, it can be tedious and time consuming in my world. Now, I was doing it mostly for law firms, so that's even more tedious and time consuming.
Sure.
But it's important, and and particularly when in the social services network, that's really important funding. So the fact that you were so joyful in doing it is a benefit I can't even imagine.
I don't know if I was always joyful about it, but I was always I would say I was enthusiastic about it.
Okay.
Like I was determined. I was excited about it. I always had good energy. But
well, that's good. You are known for your good energy. You are very energetic. Yeah. I will say that.
Sometimes if it ever twists into something negative, it's anxiety, right? That's what it would. That's where I guess sometimes the anxiety can start to diminish the joy itself. But just to be fair and honest,
that is true. But that's very true, and that's we were talking about before we had the podcast. This podcast we lean farther on the authentic side than the polished side.
Yeah.
And but that's true. The warts in our jobs, and let's face it, all of our jobs have things that come with it, and that joy gets rubbed away. Going back to the reason why it's so beneficial to go to annual gatherings like that, where you can be around other people and both commiserate and be inspired by. But it's true, and look at me. Here I was thinking grant writing was a terrible opportunity, and you found the silver lining in it. That's great. That's wonderful. And I have to imagine you're the only person to come from a master's lit background and use that power to go into grant writing. Not a lot of creative writing in grant writing, I would imagine. Although,
I would say
you would really
requires a lot of creativity. Yeah.
I guess maybe I was thinking flowery language, but
no flowery language. Yeah. You're right about that. That's for sure. No, John Marcantino, cut that out real quick.
That's true. That's the part I remembered.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that.
So you started out as a grant writer, and what'd you move into after that?
The position to direct the Salem Health and Wellness program opened up, and do you say Kevin or Mr. Hickey? I don't know.
We say Mr. Hickey to make fun of him. We say Kevin just to enjoy it.
So he considered how I might have some strengths that would also be a good professional development experience for myself, and then also help that program to thrive. Yeah. Something that's different. Grant writing often takes place in somewhat of an isolated situation, and it's very focused. Quiet, reading and detailed, research and whatnot. And in this director position, I just leapt onto the front lines of the community and into food pantries and interacting with food pantry clients, people in the community, food pantry leaders and social service leaders and agencies and whatnot. So it was very social, and I also have a strength towards being outgoing and initiating relationships in the community and partnerships and whatnot. So that's also been a great experience, and it's also helped inform what I then write in the grants, which condemns what the program directors to do and make happen and fulfill. So that position opened up, and I moved into that.
That's great. Now, I've mentioned this on the podcast many times before. I am as a product of Salem County, in the sense that I was born in Elmer, New Jersey, and then quickly moved to Gloucester County. I love Salem County. Anytime I need to refresh for myself and need a refresh, I will drive through the countryside of Salem County, and I just love it, and it puts me at ease and things like that. How have you enjoyed, because you're someone who came from Camden County, right?
Correct.
The very built up and urban and suburban area into the rural area of Salem. How have you felt about the rural area of Salem?
It's funny. I didn't know it existed.
Oh, you didn't know it existed? I didn't know
it existed, and I was driving down there for the first time, and I'm passing exit 4, and I see the sign for Cowtown, and I'm like, where are they sending me? What is this? But just like you said, the beauty, really natural beauty and peace emanates from the vast farmland and the greenery, and the communities have been so welcoming. It's been a great experience for sure.
And Salem County is one of those areas of New Jersey that's in many ways multifaceted, in the sense that it is primarily rural, but it also has some urban areas. Salem County has an urban quality to it. There's sections of
Salem City.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Salem City there's an urbanness to it. Penns Grove has a bit of an urbanness to it. Even Pennsville has a bit of that as well. So how have you do you consider yourself a country girl now that you've been down there for a little while? You've been able to...
No, I've always known I have a connection to the outdoors and like natural landscapes, like going camping and stuff growing up and whatnot. So I don't, maybe I'm more of a country girl than a city girl. Maybe naturally I am. Yeah, you're right.
I will tell you naturally that I am definitely a country boy more than anything else. As much as I love being in the city, I find that the being in the city it takes a lot of energy out of me. I love it. I love going into the city. I love eating on Broad and going to games and walking all over creation. And I've worked in Center City, Philadelphia, most of my career. But when I get an opportunity to be in the quiet fields of, Upper Deerfield.
It has a small town feel, and you can feel that among the community members itself, the social service agencies that are trying to help, and churches that of a variety of denominations that are all trying to work together and whatnot. That small town, like, everybody knows everybody is there, and that's awesome. But there's frustrations with that like the closest grocery store to Salem City is 9 miles away, and that is really inaccessible.
Right.
And so there's challenges to that also.
It's true, which kind of lends itself to the health and wellness program. Can you tell us a little bit more about the program specifically?
Sure. The Salem Health and Wellness Program focuses on supporting all the food pantries in the county. So while we have 2 offices in the county and both of them have food pantries, my role is to make sure that all the food pantries in the county are getting increased supplies of fresh produce to hand to people. And I chair a coalition of food pantry leaders in the county. There's 8 committed and active members. There's about 12 altogether. But we meet monthly. Together, we're able to receive extra surplus produce and then distribute it among the pantries and get it out. We make sure we're coordinating resources so that nothing gets wasted if anyone's out of fridge space or whatnot. And then I do nutrition education demonstrations in the pantry.
Can you tell us what the nutrition education programs are like?
Yeah. So a reason for why they're so critical is because when a food pantry becomes a household's primary source of groceries, the nutritional value of that household's kitchen goes down significantly. Food pantries, what they can primarily get their hands on are the shelf-stable items, which are prepackaged, pre-processed, pre-sauced, pre-seasoned, right? Things. And so there's no need to well, you can't go home and peel a carrot and then chop a carrot and then season it yourself with just some like oregano, and a child is not getting to watch the parent cook. They're watching their parent open a can of vegetables and put them on a plate and microwave it. So there's this loss of the skill of home cooking. There's the loss of the skill of going to the grocery store and comparing unit prices to get the most out of your dollar. And even just not the habit or the practice of reading nutrition labels and paying attention to what you're intaking. Salem County has really high rates of diabetes and adult obesity, according to the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation 2018 County Health Ranking Report. Salem County is the third least healthiest county in the state. Cumberland is second worst, and Camden County is actually the least healthiest. Now, this is different from the past several years. Usually Salem and Cumberland are vying for last, and now Camden is last. So, but it's always been in the bottom. And so this development of chronic diseases is definitely systemic from a lack of people's ability to manage their own diets and health because of an inaccessibility geographic wise and cost wise to whole, fresh, healthy foods. And when you don't have that, you need to strategize cooking in new ways. So I go to food pantries during the distributions. Distributions can last anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours. There will be anywhere from 30 to 250 people lined up, depending on which pantry it is and what day it is. I usually know how many will be there. And I set up a little table, and sometimes I'm cooking something on site. I have a burner with like a butane tank, and I can have a saute pan. I've made, for example, a healthy pancake, a flourless pancake using egg and banana. So you can mix. So in the pantry, I'll crack the eggs, and I'll have I'll say, you want to whisk the eggs, and then does somebody want to mash up the banana? So we're mashing up banana, we mix it together, and then we're making pancakes, and we top it with blueberries. They liked that one.
Wow, that's awesome.
One time I just brought collard greens and sauteed them with some garlic and lemon juice and pepper, and this is different than the traditional way of making. Usually collard greens are like boiled down to just this real drained, stringy like piece of green. Well, the collard green is so rich and a rich dark green. It has a great flavor like kale. So I wanted to get people to try it. So maybe try cooking it this way at home instead. So and then sometimes I'll like pre-make a soup or something in a crock pot and then just bring that. And so I hand out samples, I hand out flyers with the recipe and the nutrition lesson. And when I walk in, it livens up the whole atmosphere. People love when I'm there. They'll ask me when I'm coming back. And it's just, everybody loves food, know?
I'm listening to you talk, and aside from having my mouth watering at the moment, I'm also thinking you're talking about all the stuff I love to do most in the world. Like I was home on Saturday, and there were 4 overripe bananas on my countertop, and I was like, well, nobody's gonna eat those. You know what I'm gonna make? I'm gonna make a banana bread out of it. And then, since I'm trying to lose weight, I fired up my Weight Watchers app and said, what would like a skinny version of a banana nut bread? And I saw that ditch the nuts and just make banana muffins. And so I made, 12 banana muffins, and it was delicious. It was a very low amount of flour, 4 bananas. It made a ton of stuff, and they were so moist and so great. But the truth of the matter is I had the benefit of having a mom that always taught me how to cook, and a father who enjoyed cooking, particularly when my mom went back to work, and he ended up, just because of proximity of their jobs, he ended up picking up me and my sister first, and so he would make dinner at night. Well, I used to love watching him make dinner, and I love cooking now. And as you're saying that about how kids that are in an environment where they would be food unstable, I forget that terminology.
Insecure,
food insecure. I can just think about how terrible would that be if everything you eat comes out of a can. Like the joy of cooking is lost on you. Although the collard greens might be a difficult one because I've only had the typically made collard greens. I'm like, man, I can't even imagine what they would taste like.
Try it.
Like, oh, that sounds really good. Like sort of fried up in a pan. That might be nice.
A little garlic.
Yeah, well, I throw garlic in everything, so I'm on board with that. But that's wonderful. I have to talk to Mary McCusker, our beloved co-host and the communications person for Catholic Charities, to start getting you to do some video, some cooking video stuff.
Oh, that'd be fun.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Especially if you were doing it on site. I love that idea. The blueberry pancakes. Sounds great. All right. And then I'll have to go and maybe I'll volunteer to shoot it myself, and that way I can eat some of the food. There you go. Now, have you found yourself, because of the job, like, were you a good cook before? Or have you found that you've become a good cook because of the job?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did the same thing. I watched my dad cook growing up. I've definitely learned more about, I think, just strategizing.
Yeah.
And whole foods, for sure. Like, I have a strong value now for refusing pre-processed and pre-made things. Like, I instead of eating a Nutri-Grain bar, I'll make a cookie with, it's like a protein ball with chopped apple and rolled oats and cinnamon. And it has the same flavor, but it's just whole foods. Yeah. And I really value that, and I want to share that. It's so great to hear you say that, actually, because that's some of my favorite things. I've tried many diets in my life, most of them unsuccessfully. The least successful ones were the ones that were faddish. The ones that would work, and there are two of them. One of them is Weight Watchers for me. I dropped 80 pounds on it at one point, put on a few back since, but I'm working on it again, which was eat whatever you regularly eat, but understand portion control and don't go crazy. And then the other one I learned from Alton Brown, who's a chef on the Food Network, or cook on the Food Network. He would bristle at being called a chef. Where his philosophy is, okay, you want a cheeseburger? That sounds great. Make it yourself. Yes.
Make your own food. And which I really agree. In my household, we've gotten to the point now where the only processed food we really keep, we have some shelf-stable things, but they're to go in other things. They would make other things with them. The only real processed food we have is the food we use when my son has a sporting event, and there's literally not enough time to cook, and we'll do something else. But actually, we've also tried to get into the habit of using a crock pot to cook a week's worth of food ahead of it. So I still have, I think, 1.5 pounds of meatloaf to go through this week from the 3 pounds I made on Sunday. But it's true, yeah. I mean, anytime you can make your own food, it's going to be healthier, even if it's not necessarily a healthy food. Like, if you're going to,
exactly.
Chicken pot pie is not what I would call healthy, but if you make it yourself, you won't eat as much of it, and you can control what's in it.
No matter what you make, even if you put salt in it, season it with salt, it's going to have far less salt than if you bought it pre-made.
Same thing with my thing is I've been trying to cut sugars out. And what I realized personally is that I don't like overly sweet foods. So if I can dial back on the sugar a little bit, I'm happy. And I still like the taste, So you didn't realize, everybody, listeners, that this was going to turn into a food program, but this is finally the food program I've always wanted to do. And you don't have to listen to us eat, and you don't actually see it, so you won't be hungry. Yeah. Although I am now literally starving because I'm so hungry, because I really want to eat some meatloaf right now. So that's one of the programs you work with. And then I sort of alluded to this other program when I introduced you, the Walk With Me mentorship program, which is a fairly new program within Catholic Charities. So can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Sure. So we launched this program about March of this past spring. It's the program comes to us from the Department of Justice, specifically the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. They have grant funding for mentorship opportunities for communities, for youth. And so we took on this program. It's a 3-year program, but it got started late, and so we're just entering year 2 now. So we have 2 more years of the funding from that source to offer it. And the goal is to connect adult males to volunteers, mentors for male youth. The youth will be ages 9 through 17. And our goal is to be able to make 37 matches. We want to be able to connect 37 male youth, primarily in Camden and Gloucester counties, with a male mentor. The mentor and mentee, they're called, will meet for 12 months on a weekly basis, 2 hours a week. Is the ideal. We know that life happens and no one gets sued if that doesn't happen, but it's the goal to shoot for. Yeah. And there's reasons why that's the meeting structure that we've designed. That sort of regular contact and the reliability of that regular contact is part of why this program and that relationship is so impactful for the particular youth who will be participants.
You know, and I've been a part of other programs when I worked for another nonprofit years ago, and when I worked for the law firms that I worked at in the middle of my career. So both on the programmatic side of encouraging people to become mentors, and then on the other side trying to encourage, in this case, attorneys to become mentors to these youth in need. And I would say that the biggest hesitation I got from people was, I'm not sure if I have the time to do it, followed by, I'm not sure I really have anything to offer a young person. To which my reply was, all right, I would go in reverse order. I was like, you always have something to offer, even if you don't realize it. 9 times out of 10, like in my case, I wouldn't be coming to you unless I thought you had something to offer. But the truth of the matter is, you know, particularly within the Catholic Church, you know, we're all good Catholic folks, or as good as we're striving to be. And there's something inherent that we can offer someone who is in troubled times. And it's part of our nature as Catholics to make ourselves available to people who may be having difficulty. And I say that because I know most of the people listening to this podcast are Catholic. But when it comes to the time thing, you know, it goes back to that nature of, okay, well, what's really important in your life? You know, it's like, yes, there's a lot of things in my life that I really want to do and I really want to take part in, but I'm not sure binge watching something on Netflix is enough for me to take away from helping my, in this case, fellow man, to better their lives. And if you're wondering what's going to have a greater impact on society, I can't think of anything that, aside from taking care of your own family, which, you know, we should all do, but being able to extend that to taking care of people out in the community. I mean, if you're the kind of person who's complaining that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, that's one of the things you can do to stop that from happening. Yes,
that's a very active response to your own fears and frustrations for the way, you know, things are going overall in the world and in our communities. Yeah.
So how's the program been going so far? I have to imagine any new program probably starts a little slow, right?
It's been difficult. It's been really difficult. We haven't made any matches yet. We've had 2 applicants. One decided that it was too much of a time commitment. Yeah. One we're trying to set up see if he's available to start training. Yeah. So very slowly.
Well, listen, if there's one thing I know, it's that all this kind of a program in particular is sometimes difficult to get traction on, simply because it's so personal. You know, it's so easy. Yeah. I tell people all the time, it's so easy to donate money. And it's a wonderful thing. And I'm not saying don't donate money. By all means, please donate all the money you can to all the different events and places that you can that are doing good work in the community. But it is difficult to pull your personal time aside. And it's also difficult. So there's this, I think I may have mentioned this on a podcast very recently, so I apologize for repeating myself. You know, there's this comedian whose name I can't remember, who's got this bit, and he talks about how when we were growing up as young people, somebody would ring your doorbell and everybody would rush to the door because they were excited that somebody was at their doorbell and they wanted to know who it is. And 30 years later, somebody rings your doorbell. You're like, who's ringing my doorbell? Why are you bothering me? Yeah. And that is a culture shift that's happened in the last 30 years. And I think it's one that we really need to break. And it's one as someone who's introverted, it's one that really takes a great deal of effort on my part. But I really have to get more comfortable with giving something back to the community at large. Just putting things out there, and maybe nothing happens. But at least I've made myself available to do good work in the community by doing something like this. I really feel like I'm talking myself into becoming a mentor in your program. I'm looking at your eyes going,
well, listen, it's a call.
Christina's going to ask me to do this.
It's a call. It's a call to men,
yeah.
and specifically men, because they're underrepresented as mentors in mentoring programs. There's many testimonies I could provide of mentors saying how fulfilling the role has been in other mentoring programs. How fulfilled their life has felt, that time has been for them to give of themselves in that way, to share their life experiences and to share the insights they've learned. And you mentioned how as that call is also issued specifically to your Catholic audiences. Mm-hmm. It's a call to missionary discipleship, which I've been trying to make, that communicating that connection, that this is a really meaningful experience of missionary discipleship. You are accompanying one person. You're encountering them on a really intimate one-on-one level, like this youth. You're going to ask them about themselves and be someone to listen, listen on a weekly basis to them, what's going on in their lives. You're just there to encounter them and take them for who they are and who they're at, and let them know that you care about them no matter where they're at. And then you accompany them for 12 months. A lot of missionary discipleship opportunities can be like one-time touches, like, oh, I'm going to make these sandwiches and hand them, and then that's it. This is really, you really get to make an impact here to accompany someone long term through a critical stage of their youth development. So I think it's a great opportunity.
I really hope that people will make it through the first 6 minutes of this terrible podcast of the terrible portion of the podcast to get to this part, because that is very much the important part. I've been blessed that Donna Ottaviano Britt relies on me for feedback, and she sent me a video that she created on your behalf, encouraging the attendees of the recent convocation for missionary discipleship, particularly the men of those attendees, to take part in this program. And the way she sort of encouraged them was that very topic of missionary discipleship. Going back to the convocation, which, in some ways I put in my rearview mirror because I was working on that event. And when I do events, I can't wait for them to be done. And I put them behind me and I move on. But for the purposes of that event, that call for missionary discipleship is really important. We really are not doing enough as Catholics not all Catholics, but many Catholics are not doing enough as Catholics to go out beyond the church walls and to live their faith publicly and to really do good works in the community. Here I am, somebody that works in the Catholic Church every day of my life, quite literally every day of my life, and I have not done that. I have not done enough missionary discipleship myself, and here I am promoting other people to do it, and I haven't done it. So listeners, if you're sitting there thinking that, this is only going to be the goody two-shoes guys, well, I'm telling you as one of the guys who's, people might consider the goody two-shoe guy, I'm not doing enough. Mm-hmm. I need to do more, and I should be looking internally and feeling that longing to do more in the community. As I'm sitting here talking to you, Christina, I'm going, yep, I'm going to sign up for it. That's what I'm going to do. I don't even have to have Christina ask me. I'm going to sign up for it because it's important.
So here's another way to think about why this, to really tug at your heartstrings. Think about who's mentored you in your life. Who has lent you their ear or lent you even a moment of advice and mentorship that has helped make you who you are today and get you to where you are in life, whether it be your career, your relationships, your sense of self and self-confidence, any particular strength or talent or skill that you have. I mean, my eyes are like beaming because when I talk about it, I just think of all the people who I've been so blessed to encounter in my path, who just took the time to see something in me and spend a moment just talking with me about how to develop that, how to embrace that and help it nurture it.
Yeah.
Right. And, so I think you could grasp onto that.
It's true. I mean, for the people who are listening who might be sort of probably my stage of their career, I did a lot of professional mentoring when I was in previous jobs. Weirdly, I haven't done it here. Although I guess you could say I've done it internally, but we actually had professional mentoring programs in previous places, and I did it in every single one of them, and I volunteered for every single one of them. Now, that could be because it counted as work and it took place during the working hours, which probably is why I jumped on it so quickly. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, I at this point in my career, just from a public relations standpoint, I'm an expert in the field. It's what I do. But I love helping people. I love it. Tell me again what the time frame is.
Sure. So 12 months from the start. There's an interview process. So we have an application. The application's fairly simple, and then we do an in-person interview just to get to know you. And we have to, if you want to move forward, you get a background check. We call personal and professional references. We get a driving abstract to make sure that you've been a safe driver overall and that you have car insurance if you're going to be driving the youth. Mm-hmm. So there's that screening interview startup process. There's an orientation training so that you have you can gain the training to these youth have. We do trauma-informed mentoring, how to handle opioid crisis training, how to forge relationships, build trust, how to talk about the close of the relationship, even from the beginning. We want to prepare youth and their families that this is, a 12-month structured program. So there's training in the beginning so you can feel confident, because it is a scary thing. What if they don't like me? What if, this comes up? What if this happens? Our staff is there throughout the whole 12 months as a support. We check in, we offer ongoing training and resources for whatever, questions or challenges come up. We organize group activities so that all the matches can come together several times, throughout the year for a fun activity, like a visit to a sports event or something. We help you come up with ideas for what you do with the youth, but really it's up for you, the youth, and the parent to decide. The parent is a part of this. They don't actually engage in the mentorship activity. They're not there at the meetings, but they'll help the mentor coordinate, are they picking them up? Or are they picking them up from school or the house, or is someone dropping them, off somewhere? So they'll help communicate they have to be in support of the program. They have to want this for their, and I am getting parents calling saying, I think my son would really benefit from this program. Can I enroll him? And I have to say, well, I'll take down your contact information. And once we get some mentors, I'll absolutely call you. So the parents, are finding this, and their mothers that are calling me. Yeah. A lot of these youth are going to be from lower income families. Their parents might be working 2 jobs, and so they don't necessarily, they're not getting that mentorship at home for how, they're not getting taken to a local museum or to a community, a peach festival, or they're not, seeing, even local sports teams playing, so it's about just the exposure and that quality one-on-one time with a positive, healthy adult, especially a male adult, someone they can relate to and can be a male role model for the males, just because they might not be getting that at home, especially if the parents themselves or the mother herself isn't well connected outside of, say, a very small urban, Camden City or Gloucester City or something area. Yeah. And if she's from out of state, and so her family's in another state, and she doesn't have that support system and network here, how is she going to help? Where does that job have a connection where does that youth have a connection for a local job somewhere to get his first work experience? I got my first job in high school because my friend worked at a bakery. So then I joined in, and so it's these small, this whole program builds community. It breaks down barriers between communities and people, and so it's really important that way. So, but I got off on a tangent. So the meetings, the mentorship meetings would be weekly. Mm-hmm. mentee and the mentor and the parent get to decide what day of the week, what time. It could be the same each week, or it could change up. They could decide on a month by month basis. They could, it's up to them.
Yeah.
They also get to decide what activities they do. And nothing has to cost money. If you go for a walk, you take them to Rutgers campus and walk around and see the campus. Take pictures, talk about your common interests, listen to each other's music, like this is a song I like, listen to this, and then he'll let you listen to a song or something, so you can be creative. And so that's the time commitment.
Hey, listen, that's outstanding. And I really like the fact that you already come, loaded for bear with ideas and ways of putting people at ease. For anybody who is attending Man Up South Jersey this weekend at Paul VI High School on November 9th, you are going to have a table available.
We will be there.
And
we'll have the applications there. We have a job description for what, a mentor can expect there, and just briefly, we're not looking for perfect people. It was something you said in the beginning. Well, I don't have anything to offer. It might be something, or I've messed up in life. I wouldn't be a good, or even I'm going through something now. That's fine. That's real. These youth, even youth, think back at how much adversity do you experience? Just being a youth is a traumatic experience. So adversity is something that they can relate to. And just the fact, if you've learned anything from your own experiences and mistakes and trials, then that's something so valuable to pass on. So we're not looking for perfect people, but we'll have those materials there. You can take a look. You can take the applications with you. We'll have brochures with more details and the kind of like the process laid out for you. We'll be thrilled to talk.
And if people can't make it on to Man Up, or they're not going to Man Up, you are going to have, I found out today, about 470 people to choose from, or to convince to be a part of this. But if people can't make it to Man Up, how would they learn more about the program?
We do have the mentorship program is accessible through the Catholic Charities website.
Catholic Charities, Camden.org?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I remembered.
I think it's /mentorship.
/mentorship?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll have that link in the show notes so that people can go to it as well for anybody who's listening.
Thanks. Maybe you could also put my email in the show notes. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I will do that as well. I'll make myself a note right now. Email and website show notes. Usually I get to let somebody else ask a question while I'm taking notes. But now I have to do it because there's nobody else for me to provide cover. This is so weird. I've never done a one-on-one interview before. Thank you. Well, that's not true. I've done 1,000 one-on-one interviews. I've never done them that are recorded for a podcast. So thank you very much for coming here and helping us.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about you, you may not be a country girl, but you are a South Jersey girl. You grew up in Camden County. Went to Camden County or Camden Catholic High School.
Yes.
You go to Catholic Elementary School too?
Yes, St. Peter's and Merchantville.
Oh, wow. St. Peter's and Merchantville and Camden Catholic.
Yes.
That does seem to be the typical route that I found for a lot of people.
There was a lot of us, yeah.
Yeah. We've talked about that on the podcast in the past, too. We had Kathy O'Callahan on. Okay. So she was there when you were there, too?
No, but I
family.
I was a parishioner for a long time. So, and she's, they're working there now. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I know her that way. Great. Yeah, in fact, we did karate together. I don't know if I'm supposed to. I think it's okay that she does. Actually, I think she's very cool for doing karate.
I think she is too. She's very cool in general. The Callahans are pretty darn cool. But no, that's cool. And how have you enjoyed your time? I mean, you've 3 years now at Catholic Charities. Have you found it to be more fulfilling than other places you've worked in the past?
I think it is the exact place. Like, God has had this role in mind for me, this job, this place, this network. He's had it in mind the whole time. I just know it, and it's been a wonderful match for me. It's been an excellent experience, and I'm really I'm thankful every day.
I'm really happy to hear that. I as someone who, if you ever go into my LinkedIn account, you realize that I bounced around most of my career. In the 4 years I've been at the diocese, I will say it's the best 4 years of professional work I've ever had.
Wow.
And I would never have anticipated that. Much like we were saying about not having much to offer, I kind of figured, I'm a typical Catholic, cradle Catholic, my formation was limited to what I got in my schooling and in my parishes, and I've been here and I'm around all these theologians and great Catholic minds in the diocese, and here I am, little old country boy Mike Walsh, who understands PR. And it's been so weird because oftentimes I'll feel like a fish out of water, but at the same time, I could not feel more home here than I've ever been in any place I've ever worked. So, I say this to tell other people, if you're looking for jobs and stuff like that, certainly always check out the diocese and your parishes and the ministries here. But at the same time, I know this because I know a few people who are looking for work right now. When you're in that gap and you're looking for some place to go, try to find a place that's going to feed your soul too. Mm-hmm. Don't just worry about the paycheck. Find some place that you're going to feel like you're in the right place. And that's not easy to find. I'm not saying that it is, but when you find it, it's special.
And volunteer right. Because that just opens doors and it makes connections. And
you are a classic example of volunteering.
And there's a lot of us. There's people who've come as AmeriCorps members, which is like a year of service, and then they get hired on. And I think it's a good strategy.
That is a good strategy. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that look at this. We've been able to help with mentoring. We're giving people job advice. We gave people cooking advice, dieting. Jeez, you are well-rounded. We're going to have you back on the podcast very soon. Anyway, well, thank you very much for joining us today, Christine. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
And and to our listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye.